Hello, everyone. Today we have a deck that is going to make some people both confused and mad. And so this is a negative Galactus list. I know that a few have floated around for a while, but every single one that I tried never really felt like it was completely solid. It felt like it was still pretty gimmicky. And this one is the closest one that I have found that has contingency plan. So if it doesn't look like a game where you're going to drop your Galactus, if it doesn't look like you're going to have your Mr. Negative, that is okay. You still have plenty of ways to win otherwise. One of the potential winning lines is the Galactus into like a null and a death. Beautiful. Huge amounts of value, huge amounts of surprise factor with the cards that we're dropping ahead of time. A lot of times the opponent's not going to anticipate it and counter it with like an arrow, a magneto, even if they have those tools, because it's not quite as telegraphed as your normal Galactus. And then the next line that we have for winning is going to be a Wong into a Black Panther into an Arnim Zola, all on curve. You could do Zabu into Wong early. You don't have to, but Wong into Black Panther into Arnim Zola can pump out up to 64 power in each location, which is absurd. Absurd amount of power that it's putting onto the board, but that can be countered and that can be blocked. That is just one of our contingency plans or our backup plans. We also have the Mr. Negative path. So if we hit Zabu into like a Mr. Negative, or sometimes even a Mr. Negative on curve on 4, can give us the resources we need. So if you hit both an inverted Wong and an inverted Black Panther, you can drop both of those cards on turn 6 to do a surprising amount of power. All of a sudden, you're throwing 20 power into one location. That's so hard to see coming. Like, who's going to anticipate 20 power? And especially if you have an inverted Arnim Zola somehow as well, then you're going to be throwing 40, 80 power into 2 locations where the turn before there was absolutely no signs and absolutely nothing to tell that that was coming. And so there's really some surprise bursts that this version has, some different high rolls, some different low rolls, but like any other Galactus or any other Mr. Negative list, it is susceptible to high rolls and low rolls. You have to play this one patiently. You're not going to just steamroll and face roll every single deck. If you don't get your ideal draw, the biggest thing and the most important thing for this deck for me is that it's very easy to tell whenever you have lost or whenever you have won. And so you can really snap accordingly. You can really snap aggressively whenever you have your key resources and you know your opponent doesn't have any kind of counterplay in place, versus if your opponent snaps but you don't have your Mr. Negative, you don't have a ramp component, you don't have Galactus, you don't have any of those big powerhouse plays, it's easy to lay down a 1-cube retreat and just rinse and repeat. I have hovered around 58% win rate with this deck over about 40 games. I played it just messing around for about 25 games before I was like, you know what, this is feeling pretty good. I think we should do a video on it. And so over those 40 games, I have gained just over 30 cubes, which is not incredible, but a lot of times you're going to be getting 2-cube retreats. Some of the time you're going to be getting 4-cube retreats, but with a Mr. Negative deck, a lot of times if you hit that high roll, your opponent will retreat before you can get that ultimate payoff. And so the most you'll see is around 4, sometimes 8, but a lot of times you'll get 4 because your opponent will think they haven't really played anything. They've just done Zabu into a psylock, and then you drop Galactus into a null and just bombard them with what you can do. And so we're going to go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. This one I have had a blast with. Please let me know what you think of it in the comment section down below. If you run this one, let me know how it goes. I'm going to continue running this one on the side just because it's been so much fun to be able to run 1, a Mr. Negative deck, and then 2, a Galactus list that's not quite in the same ballpark as the normal standard ramp into a Doc Ock into a Galactus line. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you guys, as always, for being here. Let's go ahead and jump over into a couple of games. All right, first up we have an empty apartment. The first location is the cloning vats. And I've been playing this deck just kind of in passing. And so far it has been incredibly fun. The regular Galactus list has that telltale sign that you're going to be doing Galactus. You see the Yondu, you see the Wave or the Electro, and you immediately think Galactus. This one you see a Zabu, sometimes a Wong, a psylock, maybe an Electro, and then sometimes you see the Mr. Negative as well. You're not usually going to be thinking this is probably a Galactus. And then you always have the backup strategy of doing a Wong into a Black Panther into an Arnim Zola to put a lot of power across the board as well. Now we don't get any of our ramp components just yet. Yeah. We also don't get Mr. Negative. We're hurting for resources here, you guys. This may be one of those that we have to bow out of. So they have the Invisible Woman. This looks like maybe a Hella Resummon deck. The Electro. It's interesting. With the Invisible Woman, the Electro is super interesting. I guess I'm going to do Black Panther into like an Arnim Zola and hope that 16 power is enough in these two lanes. I don't know. It doesn't feel likely, but we'll see. I don't know what's behind this Invisible Woman lane. All we've seen is Invisible Woman, Electro, Jubilee, and Odin. There's no telling. Let's go ahead and do the Arnim Zola, and we'll see. They may have a Modok discard. The Electro is what's kind of throwing me off. So it could be a Living Tribunal deck, and if so, that's going to put their power across all three lanes. So maybe we can still win, because that's typically only going to put about 15 to 20 power. So we have a chance of winning the two lanes that we're fighting for with just the Black Panther. And this is probably one of the worst draws that we could have gotten. We didn't have any kind of enabler other than our Zabu, and then we didn't have a 4-cost to go alongside it. Just not a great pairing. So we have the Black Panther, we have the Black Panther. What do they have? The Living Tribunal. Okay. We did call it Living Tribunal. I mean, maybe you get it with the Iron Man. Maybe. Probably not, because you are splitting it across 3 lanes, and it just becomes so hard to win 2 of the 3. And so I think this is a prime example of why Living Tribunal is just not good. Like, he's fun, but like this deck, we just put power into 2 lanes, and that's all we were fighting for. They could have put a Blade, a Nightcrawler, anything into Cloning Vats, and we weren't competing for it. But with the Living Tribunal, it puts that power across the board, and so it makes it harder to win unless you just absolutely obliterate some insane power. We will take the 2 cubes. Not a great start, but we were able to find a way to win with our backup strategy. Let's go ahead and take the 2 and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have our friend. The first location is the Bifrost. They play Kitty Pryde, which is absolutely fine, because if we can catch them playing into a lane that's not the lane we play our Galactus in, then we're going to be able to surprise them pretty heavily. I'm going to go ahead and play our Psylock. Then we'll play our Wong, and then our Electro. That's going to get them off of our scent. This also allows us to potentially do a Mr. Negative next turn, which would be our ideal draw. Maybe it can happen, but we're already looking much better than our first game, so if not, that's fine. We do have the Wong. Doing the Electro into the Wong lane is something that is so satisfying, because then you drop your Galactus on 5, on 6. If they had dropped a wave on 5, you can still play 2 cards. Doesn't happen all that often, but it has happened. Let's go ahead and do the Electro. This will push out of the Bifrost, and then we can do our Galactus here. And then we're gonna really have to lean in on like a Null. Null is gonna be pretty big because of the Infinite. They have the M'Baku that they're shuffling into the Dracula. Beautiful. And so this is one of those times where we should probably snap, especially if we top deck something like a Black Panther or a Null, because this is just going to be so hard for them to counter. We get the Black Panther. I'm still hesitant. I don't know if I want to snap or not. We're going to go ahead and play the Galactus. I'm not going to snap. We're going to play it just passively. They do use the Lady Thor, so the Jane Foster. It pulls a Wasp and a Mjolnir out of their deck. The Mjolnir is not going to be beneficial anymore. Their Dracula's gone. Their Infinite is gone. But our issue becomes, like, this doesn't win it for us. This Jane Foster is big for them. If they do something relatively large, this is still 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It doesn't overcome the Jane Foster. And then our other option is the Black Panther line, and that's not going to be big. Now, had we drawn into our Death or our Null, we would absolutely have this one hands down. But it's one of those that we didn't. We're going to have to retreat. The snap and the retreat lines are very transparent. It's very easy to know when you should stay, when you should snap, and when you should retreat. And this is one of those times we're going to retreat. Let's jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Hero. The first location is Tinker's Workshop. So we do get to play our Zabu on turn 1, which doesn't really benefit us in any way other than just letting them letting them know that we have the Zabu. And so we do have our Electro. We could do that on 3, unless we draw something like Mr. Negative or Wong. Mr. Negative. We have the Mr. Negative. We will play that next turn. We'll play it on curve. That's going to give us the potential to have a 0-cost Null, the 0-cost Arnhem Zola, the 6-power 2-cost Galactus. All fantastic things to have in our arsenal. Let's go ahead and stack the Mr. Negative into the Tinker's Workshop. I don't necessarily want to spread it out too much if I can help it, just to give us that option of where we play our Galactus, if we draw it. We may not draw the Galactus. So they do an Electro. We could be facing a Galactus deck. Galactus has been very, very, very common. So what if we did something like Wong into psylock here? Give us a lot of extra energy, but do we need it? I don't know. We're going to do it anyways. They could do a Doc Ock. Yeah, they do use the Doc Ock, which is unfortunate. It pulls our Iron Man and our Death. Ugh. Those are such big resources for us that they just swindled away. So now if it's the Galactus, the Doc Ock line for the Galactus is just so tough to compete up against. So I'm going to do the Bishop over here. I'm not going to do Electro. That way we can ideally do something like Galactus plus Null in the last turn. And actually, we'll have 6 energy. If we get Black Panther, then we just do Black Panther and Null. If we get Shang-Chi, then we can still do both. We can actually do all 3. Do all 3 this way as well. I'm just going to skip here. We know that they can't Spider-Man lock us if they do the Galactus. Perfectly fine with the Galactus play. And it's the default Galactus at that, which they did the default of all of their cards. Are we playing a Galactus? There's no way we're playing a Galactus bot, right? That's okay. I think we have a good shot because we do have the Null in hand. Ours is inverted, so it has 6 additional power compared to what they do. And then we do get the Shang-Chi, which is beautiful for us here. Let's do the Bishop, Shang-Chi, and then Null. That is going to take out their big resources, double them up into our Null, and we'll just go ahead and snap for them. Maybe they get greedy and stay, but with them having initiative, there's no way. There's no way that they can come out on top. And so they do stay. Ooh, interesting. So the Death, beautiful. The Cloak, and then the Spider-Man comes down a turn too late, my friend. We have the Bishop, the Shang-Chi is going to take your Death and say, I'll see you later. And we're going to feed it straight into our Null, which is going to be a mid 54 power. I guess it's only like, what, 50 power? 47 power, excuse me. A low 47 power. We will take the 4 cubes. And that's what this deck is going to do. It's going to surprise the opponent, especially those Galactus players. You're going to have the Galactus line, and they're not always going to know that that is what you have, which they should have known, right? They should have known because of the Doc Ock. Either way, we will take the 4 cubes. We're not going to question it too much. We'll take the 4 cubes. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right. Next up, we have Breakbone. And I know we've made some people a little bit mad with this deck. In my testing, I think I had done 25 to 30 games before I even considered making a video on it. I just wanted to really give it the paces. The first like 5 to 10 games, I swear I didn't see Mr. Negative at all. And then you get a couple of good games where you do see Mr. Negative and it just kind of balances itself out. But this is a mighty wild deck. Now the Electro should give away that we want to eventually do a Galactus, but them seeing Zabu, maybe they think we're just doing like an Electro ramp or a Wong Black Panther style build. So this looks like a Lockjaw Thor deck without the High Evolutionary. So bravo for you, Breakbone, for not going with that line. We have our Null now, so we'll be able to do Null into the Citadel. And it's going to be massive, massive value for us. Since we're going to do this on 5 and then this on 6, I think we're going to do the Shang-Chi now. I don't think there's any reason to hold it, to wait, because we're not going to be able to do it alongside the Null on the last turn. And the Null in Onslaught Citadel is going to be our best friend. And so they have the Power Stone. Let's rotate into something big. Thanos is very, very welcomed here. They do play the Space Stone, but we're going to take out their big resources before they can move any of them over into the Onslaught Citadel. And from there, if I snap now, I feel like they're going to go ahead and retreat, or else I would snap. But we're going to have the Galactus come down. Going to bump up our null a little bit further, and then we're going to throw it into the massively double-powered Onslaught Citadel. So let's go ahead and lock in the turn before the retreat. With Galactus, it's so decisive that most of the time you want to snap accordingly. But I guess, honestly, we could do Galactus here, and then our null should be the highest power card, but we're going to do it into the Onslaught Citadel. It's just, I feel like we have to. I feel like it's where we need to play our null. Ooh, they moved their Lockjaw over. Interesting. Okay. And so we destroy a mystery card in mid. We don't know how much power that card had, but our null is just going to be massive here. They should have initiative going into this last turn because of this Lockjaw flip and moving the Lockjaw over. Ooh, okay. No way. I bid you adieu, Breakbone. All right, next up we have the Condor Hero. The first location is the Space Throne, not great for us. We do have our psylock to ramp into a Galactus, as long as the locations will it so, or if the Reality Stone wills it so. So Machine World, okay. Machine World's okay for us. I'm gonna go ahead and play the Zabu into the unknown. And then depending on what our next card is. I mean, we could always do Wong on 3, Psylock, double trigger on 4 to get the Galactus on 5. I guess we wouldn't need to double trigger it, would we? But we can nonetheless. We get Null, which is great for us. Let's go with the Wong. Titan actually will allow... Ooh, this is going to be a surprise factor for him. We're going to go Psylock. We're going to do Space Stone. And then we're actually going to be able to do Galactus on turn 4 for that surprise power. And then we're not gonna really be elevating our null too much, unfortunately. So they have the loot cage, which is fine. I think that tells me that they plan on keeping these cards out on the board. Maybe they don't have a Killmonger, but we are going to be able to Galactus on them. And so we'll give them the Galactus back in Machine World. They do play a Cyclops. And so this is the high evolutionary Thanos list, which is a lot more variable than the other version, but it's also quite impactful at the same time. So our null is relatively small here. I mean, it's 8 power. I guess that's not like super small. I'm going to do an Iron Man. That will also give them an Iron Man in return. But if they spend their last turn playing the Iron Man, we know that this play was pretty unimpactful or uneventful. Ooh, okay, so they do a Leech. So our Shang-Chi is going to be awful. Our Null is going to be awful. Our Death, however... I mean, I think the Death is going to take them by surprise. We could probably swindle them out of a couple of cubes here, because I think they probably drop something like Thanos, the Evolved Hulk, or something pretty large, but not larger than the double power of our Death. Let's go ahead and drop that. And they do drop the Evolved Hulk, which is 16, but that's not going to be bigger than the Wong plus the 2-cost Death, courtesy of the Iron Man. So we are able to hold down the 2 cubes. Not a comfortable one. This is not going to be as comfortable as doing a Galactus into a Spider-Man, but that is what you give up for that element of surprise, so that the opponent really has no idea what you're planning, and you have a couple of alternate play lines to be able to make sure you have a way to play. And so we'll take the 2 cubes. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have cute little Ant-Man, and they're running a Thanos deck as well, which is really wild. Maybe it's the time frame that I'm playing. Maybe somebody posted a Thanos list. I don't know. I've been facing Thanos quite a few times. They're slow playing us, though. They don't appreciate. Okay, Time Stone, so they're going to have... Wow. So they're going to... Gosh, they have 5 energy on turn 2? They could Professor X lock this lane. That is awful, my friend. And we have initiative, so my gosh. Professor X lock in this unknown location? No, Spider-Woman. What? You have an Odin? Is that what you're doing? Is this an Odin deck? Or did you know that Asgard was there? I'm going to do death here. We're going to try to fight for the Asgard location. Okay, so the Cyclops is not great. Then the Altar of Death. My God. These cheap cards that they keep having, but they are running low on cards so far right now. We're just going to have to let them have it. We're going to play the Electro into the Altar of Death. We're going to give them Asgard, let them have it. They have so much energy that they can use this turn or that they can utilize. They could do a Professor X. They could do a handful of other unfortunate plays as well. They do use the thing. They snapped into this, so I'm guessing their hand looks pretty good. Our death goes all the way down to an 8 power card, which is it's kind of sad, kind of scary. Scary sad. Okay, so we'll do the Arnhem Zola, and then we'll kind of go from there. We have the Shang-Chi to take out like a big card, so ideally their Devil Dino. We'll see. We'll see if we can still win this one. Super weird game. I think we've got it. Like this, the death is safe. We don't have to worry about death getting destroyed. Null is a pretty good card here, but I think our Shang-Chi is going to be better. That's what we're going to go with. If they do like an Evolved Hulk or something big into the Vibranium Mines, so be it. It's already gone. The Altar of Death is hard for them to play into. They do use the Evolved Hulk, and we have our Shang-Chi. Super strange game. I don't even feel like we did anything. This definitely wasn't Galactus. Both Negative and Galactus were still chilling at the bottom of our deck. We'll take the 4 cubes where we can, and we'll take it. Let's go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Blue Train. First location is the Savage Lands. We have our Galactus. How do we want to utilize him? We could do psylock just in case we draw into our Mr. Negative, but that's a 1 out of 7. I don't think we're going to risk it on the 1 out of 7. I mean, we could also... Well, sometimes life comes back and slaps you in the face. We get the unlucky 1 out of 7 there. Let's go ahead and play Mr. Negative 1 curve now. We're not going to be able to do our Galactus play, but we do have our Zola, so maybe we get lucky and get like an inverted Iron Man that we can play. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to play here. They do use Jubilee into the Warrior Fall location, and they pull a Wasp. Super unfortunate for Blue Train that they pull out the Wasp. We can do this. The Psylock, the Wasp, and the Jubilee will all get destroyed. That's going to allow us to do the Black Panther that we're drawing into. We're doing it. It's happening. On the last turn. No, is that good? I don't know that that's even good. I don't know. We're going to try it. We're going to see what we can make happen. Okay, so the Jane Foster comes down. They will have initiative going into this last turn. So a Shang-Chi's not bad here. We can do both a Death and a Shang-Chi. That's beautiful. Our Null is a massive 2 power. If anybody wants a 2 power Null, you can have mine. I don't want it. We could do the Iron Man into an Arnhem Zola. It's a very viable, very valid play. Or we could do this. Where do we think they play here? This is going to make sure that we have at least a lot. It's going to take out our Wong. Our Wong is going to get destroyed in this lane. But the Shang-Chi should help us win this one. Because they have the Mjolnir. They'll play the Mjolnir. Thor will go up to 10. They play the Mjolnir plus an Evolved Hulk here. Oh, wait, no. This is not the High Evolutionary version. I don't know what they play. So we're just going to send it with our original play line. Magneto pulls our... Oh, how much power is this here? Okay, that is fine. That keeps our Iron Man protected in this lane. So the Iron Man is going to come down. The Mjolnir will get destroyed, not the Iron Man. The Shang-Chi destroys the Thor. We have the Death come down over the top of the Jane Foster, and we are able to hold down the 2 out of the 3. We will take our 2 cubes. Go ahead and jump over into the next one. All right. Next up, we have Mr. Slantastic. And I think when I was testing out like a regular-ish Galactus build with a few tweaks, I think I was running Howard the Duck, Iron Lad, a few other like slight changes. I think Mr. Slantastic took us for 4 cubes. I think we snapped. I think he snapped, I snapped back, and then he countered us really heavily or something like that. But now, if we get our death is going to be free. We don't have a ramp component for our Mr. Negative. They have psylock. Okay, interesting. Lemuria is going to make sure that nothing reveals this turn anyways, so an early Mr. Negative wouldn't have really done much in the grand scheme of things. But this is really cool. We're going to be able to psylock, do a Mr. Negative on 4, plus get the psylock bonus to do a Galactus on 5. Beautiful. We're going to snap into them. I know that they snapped into us earlier. Don't remember what they were running. Mr. Slantastic, if you're out there watching this one, no hard feelings. I completely understand. You took us before. We're going to try and take them back. So they did the collapse mine. Let's go ahead and stack the Mr. Negative here. And we'll see what they played over here. Maybe they played Dracula? A psylock ramp into Dracula? I think it feels like they were running discard when I played them earlier. Now it gets tough. We're gonna stick this one out at least for now. They may swipe 4 more cubes from us. But we'll see. Okay, so the Wong comes down, and then the Jubilee pulls something into the icebox. What do we pull? Mr. Negative. No way. That is so lucky. Oh no, you got so lucky with that Mr. Negative. Ugh, it makes me physically ill. I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna play Galactus into the icebox. That takes away their Wong. It also they have 2 spaces taken up here. Now the bad thing is our Null doesn't get very big. Our Iron Man isn't that great. We're gonna have to rely on getting some kind of really good top deck. We don't have our death yet, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Let's go ahead and play the Galactus, see what they play. They play a Black Panther that buffs up our Null, which is beautiful for what we need to do here. So now if we can get like an inverted Arnhem Zola, that's like the icing on the cake. That is like cherry on top. So the Black Panther buffs up our Null. God, you guys, it's happening. We got the inverted Arnhem Zola. That all worked out just exactly how I spoke it, which was so strange. We had the inverted Arnhem Zola, which we would use first to take out the Null. So it's only going to be 4 extra power, but it's the only thing we could play alongside the Null. And so the Null was going to be 19. Actually, no, since this destroys the 2, it goes back into our Null, so we wouldn't lose that value. We will take the 4 cubes, Mr. Slantastic. Always a pleasure to snap and snap back against you. Just to be clear, we lost one earlier to Mr. Slantastic for 4, and so now we are net neutral. We are on even ground again. Let's go ahead and take the 4. We'll jump over into the next one. All right, next up we have Apple Cat. In our starting hand, we have our Mr. Negative. We have Black Panther. We have Arnhem Zola. So we have some massive resources to be able to potentially lean in on. And then we get Galactus. We also get Electro we get Vormir, where we can use our Electro or our Mr. Negative. I'm not sure which one we want to go with. Either way, we're going to be able to destroy one of the cards we don't want to stay. I have the Korg, the Jeff. That tells me this is probably like the Stature deck. And we're okay with the Stature deck. We're relatively okay with the Stature deck. The only potential downside is if Black Bolt hits one of our 0-cost cards, like on the turn we're dropping Galactus, would be kind of unfortunate. Otherwise, we're perfectly fine with it. Let's go ahead and go with Mr. Negative here. That's going to set it to 2. And then we do draw our death, which is a beautiful resource. When it gets inverted, it's not great. But since we have it in hand, it will function appropriately. We're going to have some decent cards to be inverted. The Rock, the 1-power Rock is going to be huge. The 6-power Null, the Iron Man, potentially like a Wong or a Psylock. Shang-Chi is a great resource for us drawing to as well, as it's inverted. So let's go ahead and go with the Mr. Negative. We can do the free Galactus. Not more rocks. Okay, well, we had a good run, you guys. Okay, so now Now I'm really concerned. I'm really concerned that they're going to use a Black Bolt and we're going to lose our Iron Man. So I almost don't even want to go with Galactus. I almost want to go with something like Iron Man into Arnim Zola. That's not the fun route. That's not the fun play. That is not how we're going to do it. We're going to do it this way. If they play into Vormir, they haven't played a card yet, it gets destroyed. They probably play Black Bolt somewhere. We lose our precious Iron Man. It is what it is. We're just gonna take the L. We're gonna take the massive L. Oh no! So they do a Hawk. Beautiful. I'm glad we didn't talk ourselves out of the Galactus play, and we did already snap, so that has come down. The Hawk is now gone. Our death is impeccably cheap. We get okay. Oh my goodness! If one of these ever plays all the way out, this is map. Look at this. Look how much power we're throwing. For not having null, we're throwing 25, 27 times 2, like 56 power that we're throwing. Even if they, for some reason, had a null, we would win. Now, the only thing we would have to worry about is like the Shang-Chi play. But Shang-Chi would only hit our Black Panther. These three would be fine. An Enchantress, maybe. But the Enchantress wouldn't hit our Black Panther, and so then therefore we are fine once again. We will take the 2 cubes, and that is where we're going to go ahead and end the video. It's the same core idea of Galactus, where you ramp into it, but the finesse is much different. And so you can really make the opponent, the opponent sees a Mr. Negative on 3, they're not starting to think, okay, Galactus could come down this very next turn if they top decked an inverted Galactus, which can happen. And so we're going to go ahead and end the video here. At the core, this is still a Mr. Negative list. You still have to play it very patiently. I went on a massive tear over the course of like 25 games where I had about a 62% win rate, and then I actually dropped below 50% for a little while. So I had another massive tear where I lost almost 4 or 5 or 6 in a row because it was just 1 cube retreats. But I was still gaining cubes overall, and as I play it more, it is right sizing. I am now hovering right around 57, 58%, which for a Mr. Negative deck, for a Galactus deck, for that kind of hybrid version, that's incredibly fun for me to play. This doesn't feel as linear as a regular Galactus, so I have much more fun playing this versus the old style. And so I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and a comment down below. As always, this has been TLSG. Later, guys.